Now, for more on how the renovations are changing the face of China's historic neighborhoods, let's bring in Beatrice Leanza from Beijing Design Week. Welcome to the show.
Good morning. Well, good morning for Beijing.
Now, Beatrice, our reporter took a look at what's been happening in some of the Hutongs in Beijing. How would you describe the overall state of Hutongs there?
Well, the current state is quite uneven, and it's a product, of course, of decades of courses of urbanization and re-urbanization and bisecting of these areas. So particularly after the 2000s, when new policies over conservation and preservation of cultural heritage were implemented in Beijing, then you have a sort of like patchwork situation where you have more sort of commercially driven contexts and areas like Nanluo Guxiang and Wudaoying, but there are also other areas that instead have chosen a different course of rehabilitation and have gone through, and this is the case of examples and experiences that we have met with Beijing Design Week, instead have gone through a form of like urban curation or a way to integrate the cultural and social aspect, the cultural and social life of these districts within their methodologies.
Now, you mentioned some of the more popular Hutongs like Nanluo Guxiang, and they've become major tourist attractions. How is all this affecting the quality of life for residents there?
To be sure, this has been something that's been very vocally reported. This is affecting residents' life, and not only, of course, these are families, often multi-generational families that have been living in these neighborhoods for decades. Indeed, I mean, these have been negative examples that though for the sake of a better future, have been also taken as blueprints and precedents not to be replicated. So definitely, I mean, there are also new forms of practices that attempt at mending a little bit this phenomena that are highly like commercially driven.
So what are some examples then of some of these Hutongs that are really striking that right balance of development while still really preserving the culture that's so important there?
Well, out of my personal experience, I can say that working with local district and local developers, for example, of areas in Dashilar, or the area of Baitas, has been a great journey. I think one where there was like intended mutual course of education, ongoing. I think that every Hutong district, it's really unique to itself. So it's hard to pick a way or pick a methodology or a method, of rehabilitation, of the historic or built environment without taking into account its own specific culture. So these two districts that I just mentioned are very different. They are, of course, within Xichen district, so within the second ring road, but they are history is very diverse. They are both, though, been very attentive at placing a new dialogue with the residents, hearing them out, and understanding where the first steps to be taken so that they themselves could benefit, the residents could benefit of this new approaches to urban revival.
Thank you. Unfortunately, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you so much. So, Beatrice Leanza from Beijing Design Week.